Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari returns to the country after 49-day vacation in the UK. Reactions trail President's return. APC says he's back with renewed vigour. PDP demands that he reveals his health status to Nigerians. National Emergency Management Agency deploys more equipment to Kaduna International Airport for emergency services. And South Korean court upholds the impeachment of the country's president over her role in corruption scandal. And for more on our top stories and others, please visit our website channelstv.com and youtube.com/channelsweb. You can also watch us on the go on your mobile device. Log on to m.channelstv.com or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows phones from their respective stores. Having the Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You also have the Eyewitness feature, so you too can be part of the news. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the Eyewitness menu and follow the instructions to share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. The Independent National Electoral Commission may have done the unusual but not the unlawful. Perhaps the first time since democratic dispensation began in 1999, announcing an election date 2 years before the election year is somewhat unexpected. INEC has given its reasons and backed it up with relevant sections of the law. But in retrospect, what are the myths tied to the election dates in Nigeria? Our political correspondent Seun Okinbaloye appraises the election umpire's decision.
Elections to presidential elections will now hold on third Saturday of the February of the election year.
That announcement may have jolted many Nigerians and perhaps pumped some pressure into the veins of some politicians. The reason may not be far-fetched. INEC announcing election dates 2 years before the election year. Some say it is perhaps a strange one. Election dates in Nigeria may have come with some controversies. For example, in 2011, Nigerians were angry about a second postponement of the exercise. In September of 2010, INEC had asked for a postponement of the polls, citing the need for more time to overhaul the electoral register. The election was postponed from January to April 2011 due to the release of a new electronic voter registration software. And on the election day in 2011, the election was again postponed on the election day. That brought a precedent of an early in the year election. That trend did not stop. In 2015, it was at the Chatham House that the then National Security Advisor suggested that the election be postponed because of security reasons. And then that prayer was met and INEC had to shift the elections by 6 weeks. The announcement for the 2019 elections may be unusual, but certainly it does not appear any law is broken in the action of the umpire. The Electoral Act clearly stipulates that elections should not be earlier than 150 days and not later than 30 days. With the issues of logistics and preparations that have always bedeviled the conduct of elections in Nigeria, a 2-year gap may be enough for the umpire, security operatives and politicians to get ready. The Commission has obviously removed any room for excuse that may come in the way of the elections. For INEC, it's a good cue to begin proper voter education and also put it out in order, especially with the issue of voter register. Seun Okinbaloye, Channels Television News.
Now, to discuss INEC's timetable and the implication of the proposed dates moving forward, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by a former Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, University of Lagos, and also a former National Commissioner of INEC, Professor Lai Olurode. Thanks so much for joining us on the news at 10.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
So why do you think the board has released this timetable this early?
Well, first of all, I think the question to ask is whether what the Commission has done is in breach of the law, or it is a position that is defensible under the laws of the country, and I think the Commission has the constitutional backing to so decide. In the Constitution, especially Section 76, there's no time that is stated for INEC to come out with a timetable. So it can't come out with a timetable even a day after the presidential election, a day after 2015. And in retrospect, I also think when we're in the Commission, we've had some challenges with fixing election date, precisely because some political parties will raise issues that maybe the time that it was announced and the order of the election were not favorable to them. But I think it's not a time that is so close to any election. It's far away from 2019, so you cannot say you are disadvantaged by the fact of the announcement of
so
this
do you think
timetable.
that's why they've given them 2 years?
Is the right way
do
to do, because in terms of our electoral practices, we need to move to the next stage of our democratization process. What do I mean? There's the need to be deepening the process. Secondly, to make elections to seem a routine. Of course, you have different regimes of fixing election date. In the US, for example, you know very well that elections are held the Tuesday that follows the first Monday in November. So you know when the time is. Right from even the next 20 years, you can determine when elections are going to be held. So nobody's going to spring a surprise at the electorate and at the key critical stakeholders in the election.
All right, in the spirit of deepening the process, like you were talking about, a lot of people have concerns about the voters register, which is what they say is the spine of the elections. That why don't they look at cleaning that up before the date, rather than the other way around?
That is why it is important and that INEC has come out very clearly about the so INEC can now work backward and decide. It has its own agenda, its own time frame for accomplishing the critical stages in the electoral process, like the continuous voter registration. You need to compile a new register, you need to update, you need to, whatever you need to do, you now know you have to put a timeline. In fact, what I think should happen now is for other critical stakeholders in the electoral process to take a cue. INEC has blazed the trail. INEC is a pathfinder. It has said, look, for us, 2019, we're looking at 2019 in 2017. Why can't political parties, all the other stakeholders, police, security agents, why can't they begin to train their people? Why can't they begin to, parties can decide, when are we going to hold the primary for party A, for party B, so that INEC will be very clear, and INEC will be in a position to monitor the primaries. When are your conventions, your congress is going to take place? You have no excuse at all not to be able to come to on platform with the commission. And
a very important set of critical stakeholders, let me put it as you've said it, are the resident electoral commissioners. As it stands, we have just 4. 33 of them, their tenure has expired out of 37. And these are the people who are supposed to be overseeing this process. So just a minute, let me just get the question in.
Yes.
Are we going to see some accelerated appointments, or are we going to stick with the 4 for the next 2 years?
No, honestly, I'm not in government. I can't speak for government. But for me, it's not a critical challenge, because you see, what JEGA-led commission has been able to do is the process of institutionalization of the electoral process. In fact, for all the elections that have been held, especially governorship elections, where INEC can mobilize all the other staff in the field and deploy them. You understand? And I think you have on-ground administrative secretaries in all the states of the federation, and they are effective, they can conduct it, there's nothing that they cannot do. I don't think it's a challenge, because anybody coming on board to INEC is a new person. You have to be trained, you have to learn the nitty-gritty of organizing elections, and you have to be familiar through the support of the permanent staff of the commission. We are INEC commissioners, resident electoral commissioners, they are just like ad hoc staff, and it requires no serious training for you to come on board, because you already have what it takes to be an election manager with the support of the permanent staff of INEC. I think what we should be worried about more is about how do we get parties to function the way political parties should function. How do we get security agents to do election in ways that will minimize and will encourage voters turnout? That, I think, is what we need to do.
All right. Former National Commissioner of INEC, Professor Lai Olurade, thanks for sharing your thoughts on the news at 10 tonight.
My pleasure.
From there, let's cross over to Abuja now. Here's Ibrahim Adra. Ibrahim.
Ejoma, thank you for joining us. Family members of the 6 Igbo traders who were murdered in Abuja in June 2005 have approached the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to register their displeasure over the court judgment on the matter. An Abuja High Court yesterday sentenced to death 2 out of the 6 police officers initially charged with the killings and discharged the others for lack of evidence. But the leader of the aggrieved family members, Chief Chimeze Ife, who is also the chairman of Apo Traders Association, says the families are opposed to the court's decision. Addressing the protesters on behalf of the AGF, the Director of Legal Drafting at the Ministry, Mr. Tahir Hamza, gave the assurance that the appropriate steps would be taken to address the issue.
Release orders, the gentleman and orders free, then sentence to the. It's very, in fact, we didn't understand. They will tell us the reason why. We don't know the reason why. So we are praying to the Minister of Justice to look into the matter, call the judge that give the judgment yesterday to order.
We do not know, and we are not in a position to criticize the judgment or to applaud the judgment. What remains are processes of court, and you still have an opportunity to pursue your rights. From the High Court, you still have an opportunity to go to the Court of Appeal. It will not end there. You can still appeal to the Supreme Court. These are your own rights. And I want to implore you to pursue this process. At the same time, as an emissary of the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, we intend to deliver your message.
Thank you, sir.
And we also appreciate if you can hasten process in delivering the letter which you have just promised. I want to reiterate that this is the government that believes in the rule of law. This is the government that does not believe in any kind of mediocrity, the way you are trying to put the situation.
Meanwhile, the Federal High Court in Abuja has struck out an application by Senator Umar Dahiru seeking to amend the suit challenging the nomination in subsequent election of Governor Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State. Senator Dahiru filed his motion on the basis that the governor was wrongly nominated by the All Progressive Congress in the election which held on April the 11th, 2015. But in his ruling, Justice Gabriel Kolawole dismissed the application for amendment because it was not the application remitted by the Supreme Court for retrial. Our correspondent, Yemisi Ikbae, has a report.
Courtroom 6 of the Federal High Court, Abuja, is packed to bursting point with lawyers, supporters and journalists, anxiously awaiting the ruling of the court in the case of Senator Umar Dahiru versus the APC and Governor Aminu Tambuwal, concerning the application to remove the governor of Sokoto State from office. Justice Gabriel Kolawole dismissed the plaintiff's application for lack of merit. Justice Kolawole held that the plaintiff had claimed in his motion on notice, filed on the 27th of January 2015, that the primary election conducted on the 4th of December 2014 by the APC, which produced Governor Tambuwal, was a sham and in gross violation of the Electoral Act 2010 and the APC election guidelines, but that the plaintiff had then somersaulted to file a fresh motion on notice, seeking the variation of his pleadings in his earlier suit to the effect that he should be declared governor based on the same primary election. The judge said the plaintiff intended to steal a match, which he originally said was null and void. And on this basis, the judge struck out the plaintiff's motion in its entirety. The judge highlighted that granting the application for amendment of the reliefs would change the nature and character of the case file, which the Supreme Court had remitted to the High Court for retrial. Consequently, the application for amendment was dismissed. Justice Kolawole concluded the suit is struck out and has been dismissed. Counsel to the defendants applaud the ruling.
We commend Nigerian judiciary because they always stand to the occasion. And I think his lordship was correct when he says that the amendment sought, it was not in the original case that they filed.
But the lawyer to Senator Dahiru had this to say.
We are going to look at it and then we'll take the necessary steps. It could be an appeal, It could be a curative measures within the registry of the court.
In 2016, the Supreme Court remitted this case back to the Federal High Court for a fresh trial, on the ground that there is life in the case, notwithstanding the conduct of the governorship election. But many are now debating that Justice Kolawole's judgment may not be the end of the saga, as it's not clear whether the plaintiff will try to go for another round of appeal. Yemisi Paye, Channels Television News.
Yemisi, many thanks indeed. When the news at 10 returns, Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves hit $30 billion mark, its second biggest rise since July 2015. That's on Business News. Do join us again.